Gents, we have a very special guest here today. For the first time ever, we have Shahin, Senior Manager for Partnerships at EA. And it's kind of a different interview here, but I think in what we like to talk about here on the show, I think it's the perfect interview because Shahin, obviously you've been a part of this for a very, very long time. We're super excited to have you on. But I guess the major first question here is we've seen you on the BLGS. We've seen you on the ALGS. We see you all over the place. What exactly do you do? We need a full breakdown of what exactly you do.
Well, I've not been in the BLGS. I guess I was in the BLGS video. I've not competed in the BLGS. The B stream though.
I just meant in the
B
stream. Sorry, the B stream.
No,
sorry.
it's cool because I've seen a bunch of our talent competing in the BLGS and everything, so that's pretty rad. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me, man. I'm stoked to chat Apex always. It's and I've been watching the pod here and there. I watched the episode with Greek with Onset, so yeah, it's awesome. I love content like this, so thank you guys for having me on. Yeah, I've been on this game since before it launched. Like I started working on Apex 7 months before the game released, and I've been on it since. And the whole time, pretty much, my focus has been on the partnership side of things, mostly around the ALJS or competitive Apex, like the esports side of it business. But like also, obviously, there's a lot of crossover with the base game itself. So yeah, man, it's a pretty broad role, and given I guess just like everything that we've been working on, it touches a lot of different things. So the if I was to like tick all the different boxes, I guess the very first thing is obviously partnerships. It's like sponsorships, the big sort of deals that we have like that. So the ones that you've probably seen over the last few years, Lenovo, now we've got Alienware, Sony InZone as our new monitor sponsor that we just announced. Monster, now we've got Red Bull for the last few events. Am I missing anybody? Herman Miller? I'm trying to think if I'm missing anyone else who's going to get pissed at me for but yeah, so over the last few years, Battle Beaver, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks. They're the most likely to watch this one. Too,
and then I know some of I know some of the historical ones. Like it wasn't Western Digital. That was one.
Yeah, Western Digital were as well.
Like,
man, you have better memory than I do.
Well, the Western Digital one was also funny because I did a full stream for Champs, and we had a command going where it was like, let's get Jumba out to the next LAN because we were gonna buy a lot of Western Digital hard drives, and then like
amazing.
Wig had raided me, and then everyone was just spamming buy Western Digital hard drives in like a chat with like 12,000 viewers. So that was funny. Yeah,
it's awesome. So yeah, so the partnership side, like the sponsorship side of the business, I work on that. But our team is somewhat lean, the ALGS team, and so I also touch everything else that's like externally facing. So some of the big tentpole areas, like I manage a relationship with all the esports teams, the major esports teams that are in our scene. I've been doing that since day one. And Joseph is on my team. You guys have probably seen him, Crafty Joseph. He's online. Him and I, we oversee things like the B stream and all of the watch parties now, like all the alternate language watch parties. And also by extension, all of the alternate language broadcasts that we have. So like Esports Rage, who are like our official Japanese language broadcasts, like we manage the relationship with them. So very, very deeply involved in that. Yeah, pretty much anything that touches third party. Joseph in particular does a lot on the grassroots side. So you've probably seen him a lot when it comes to like community tournament type stuff, offering out tournament codes, that sort of thing. He's really involved in the grassroots and community scene. He's recently been the one that you guys have probably seen. There's been some collegiate stuff happening recently. He's been driving that. And then beyond all of that, man, I mean, just since I'm a day one no-lifer on Apex, like Eric, who's Ghost Ayami, you guys probably remember him. We used to refer to ourselves as like we're just like the catch-all when like we're like, hey, we need to reach like this player or this team or this streamer or whatever. Like generally over the years, like I've kind of gotten to know them. So through Twitter DMs, like, anything that involves like connecting with people in the community and doing cool stuff. So the BLGS video you mentioned, like I literally DM'd Hal like 5 minutes before we shot that thing. I was like, yo man, can you swing by? We're like shooting this video, and he just came by and we filmed it real fast. Stuff like that. So yeah. And I think what would also be helpful to just share is I think what just generally the structure of our team is, because I think I've definitely seen on Reddit and other places like kind of a misconception that like I'm the head of the ALGS, something like I'm not. I have a boss who is the commissioner of the ALGS, John Nelson. He's the guy who came up with match point format and all that other stuff, and kind of just birthed the ALGS overall. But our team is I don't know, 8, 9, 10 people or so on the ALGS side. John's the head of the competition side. We have a brand side now that's over the last couple of years that's kind of formed. So you may have seen like Jasmine. She's the brand manager. She has a boss who oversees brand for all of esports at EA. But on our side, on the esports side, there's myself and Joseph on the partnerships team. We have a league operations team who handle like tournament rules and like the format of the ALGS and some of like the nitty gritty around like how do we implement a POI draft, like all that stuff is on that team. So Chris Pfeiffer, he's on Twitter. You may have seen him. And then Tab is like our league operations manager who does a lot of like the actual POI drafting. Killinger, I don't know if you've seen her name around. She is the player relations manager, I think is her title. So she's the one who's really like chatting with players a lot in Discord, herding cats at events, making sure players go from one place to the other, like coordinating all that stuff. And then we have Vartan, who's Hell Havens, I think is online name, and he does competitive design. So when it comes to supporting the game in terms of like new features that we're rolling out and in custom lobbies or whatever, working with the dev team to kind of work through that stuff, making sure that on site we have like a build of the game that, you know, works and is stable, works closely with the Respawn engineering team. Trying to think if I missed anyone else. There's a couple other folks who are behind the scenes a little bit who you may not have seen as well, but like that's like the main cast. So I may have been the most publicly facing, but I'm not the only person on our team. So I can't take credit for all of their work, but it's thought it'd be helpful for folks to kind of get a sense of who the various people are on our side.
Oh, it's great to hear. It's great to see, and I think just as far as like the entire team goes, it's I think we all kind of assumed behind the scenes that there had to be a lot of people involved to make, you know, what ALGS has become, and definitely you know, with the team that big, what we've seen with the ALGS so far has been super impressive. Now, you did mention you've been with the game since the early days. And I kind of want to go back to those early days because it must have been such a weird experience to like think back on where this game has started to where it is right now. Like going back to those early days, did you know that there was something there? You're like, okay, I feel like we've got something big on the way.
I'm glad you asked this because like this is like one of my favorite things to talk about is like myself, John, Ghost Ayami at the time, and a couple others, like we were working on Battlefield at the time. And I remember even internally within EA, Apex was kind of a secret. Like not many people knew about it. And at the time I was in LA, Battlefield, where our team was in LA, and Respawn was up the road in a different part of LA. And I remember, I don't know how it happened, but someone reached out to our team and they're like, hey, like, I know you guys are working on Battlefield, but you should go check out this game that Respawn's working on under wraps. Like, just kind of feel it out and see what the potential is. I didn't go the first few trips, but Eric, Ghostayami, and John went a few times. And Eric's kind of got like his finger to the pulse. I mean, the guy's a former Halo 2 pro. He was just competing this past weekend at like an event in Vegas, which was pretty cool. And so they went to check out the game, and he came back the next week, and he's always told me, he's like, I'm not a huge fan of like ability shooters. Like he used to tell me that about Overwatch and all that stuff. And he comes from Halo, where that's not really like the bread and butter of the game. And he came back and he's like, man, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like this game has the sauce. Like I can feel this game has got it, you know? And for me to hear that from him about an ability shooter, I was like, okay, this game's got to be pretty crazy. Like I've never played this game. I have no idea what it's like. And then so soon after, the rest of our team went out there to check out the game, and yeah, man, we were blown away even before the game was out. 6-7 months, you know, ahead of launch. It was just such a cool feeling game, and I mean, I think that's what people still love about the game now, the way that the game feels, the movement, all that stuff, right? And it was just like we were hooked immediately. And back then we had to do like play tests internally. There wasn't like people complain about matchmaking now, dude. You used to like click ready and you'd just be like one of like 13 people in the queue and you'd just be waiting for like 30 minutes for whoever else in the playtest died. So there was enough people to queue and get into a lobby. So maybe we get like 3 or 4 games in a playtest. Um, so we used to just, we'd head over to the studio and we would just play for those 3 or 4 games that we would get. But we loved it, man. And immediately our team saw the potential. We were like, this game really has something pretty special. Like, first of all, it was kind of a different take on BR, which at the time, obviously Fortnite and PUBG were king. But it just felt like the movement, the shooting was so satisfying. And it was also unique that it was three-player squads. At the time, that wasn't really a common thing. And so fast forward, I don't know, many months, we've been working on the game for a while and we kind of helped provide some feedback and iterate a little bit on some of the stuff before launch, especially Eric was giving feedback on some of the guns, levels, stuff like that. But that first 48 hours, man, where the game launched is like, I don't know if I'll have another moment like that in my career ever again. Like it was the most wild experience because we went from a game that like none of us thought it was going to be. I mean, we thought it'd be good. We thought it'd be a success. We didn't expect it to be overnight effectively the most popular game in the world. Like that was insane. And I have this photo of me in front of like a cardboard wraith in the lobby of the Respawn offices where I was just like, that was like the day one shot. And I just think back to it all the time. I'm like, I don't know if we'll ever have another moment like that again in my career. Like that, it's just such a wild thing to be a part of, to go from a game that no one's heard of to suddenly all my friends who are like pseudo gamers, like they're not even like hardcore gamers, are like messaging me like, yo, you work on this game? Like, it's pretty crazy. Like we're all downloading it and playing it right now. So, and you can fast forward from that to, where we're at now with arenas and thousands of people in these arenas cheering for their favorite teams and players. And it's just been like, I don't know, this incredible experience that I feel so grateful to be a part of, man. Like somewhat by luck, somewhat by luck, hopefully some hard work and some good decisions along the way. But like, yeah, I'll never forget this journey for sure. The last 6-7 years on Apex and everything that I've experienced thanks to this game, over the last few years. So yeah, super grateful, man.
That's so cool to hear about because like I feel like we don't get a lot about like what that buildup was because of that secret launch. Like I can't even think of another game that has had that sort of like secret launch where just like suddenly like it came out and then everyone was playing it because like there was no trailers, there was no teasers, there was no hey Respawn's now working on Apex a BR after Titanfall 2. Like there wasn't on that. It just popped up one day and everyone's like, what's this game? All the streamers are playing it and like it was this huge excitement. I don't even know if anyone could execute on like that again. We haven't seen any other like development org or anything like that do something like that, publisher do something like that. Can you tell us a little bit about like the secret launch? Like did you have like any knowledge about like what was I guess almost like the decision process between like, hey, let's not do a whole marketing thing leading up to it and let's just release it one day and like see like what happens? Because like I feel like to me that was what was one of the big things that drew me in. Because I remember, like you said, PUBG, Fortnite, huge fan of both those games. I was playing them constantly. And then when every streamer from both those games was playing it, I was like, what the fuck's this game Apex? And then suddenly I download it. And I don't think I ever touched the other two games ever again.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was not the person who made the call on that for sure.
Yeah.
But I know that there was a lot of deliberation internally about that because historically that's not been the way that EA has launched games, right? I mean, free to play games, first of all, hasn't been historically the way EA has launched games. They've been kind of boxed games that you buy, etc. And especially like a Ninja launch like that. And I actually read an article recently. It was published by a guy called Ryan Rigney. He was the head of community at Respawn actually for a couple of years. And he actually posted something a couple months ago talking about this exact phenomenon. And I encourage you guys to go read the article because it's pretty cool. He talks about like how games have launched and how actually after Apex, that like ninja dropping thing has been like people have tried to replicate it, but it's never had the same cultural impact that it did with Apex. And I kind of agree with that. And it might just be because it was like the first time anyone had ever done that. There was no marketing campaign. I remember there was a 4-hour Twitch stream. I don't know if you guys remember this. This was like the day that it launched. There was a 4-hour Twitch stream, and like every 30 minutes, because I think there was 8 legends at launch. I think right.
Yeah, 8.
And yeah, so every 30 minutes there was like it was like it was like a looping video of King's Canyon, like I don't know, like a tree or something. And then like every 30 minutes there would be like they would splice in like 2 seconds of like a finisher from like one of the legends or something. And then at the end of the 4 hours, it was like twitch.tv/respawn or something like that. And then at the end of the 4 hours, there was like a 2-minute video that's like, this is this game. We've been making it under wraps. It's available right now. Go download it and play. And I sat in that Twitch stream all 4 hours, man. And I was just sitting there. I remember that day I kind of took it off work. I was like, dude, there's no way I'm like gonna go sit in the office like and just like wait for this thing. I was like, I want to download it and play it at home. So me and other people on my team, Ghost, etc. I was like, dude, we're all gonna watch this 4-hour live stream of like a looping KC video and download the game and then just like jump in. And I think I don't remember if we won our first game or not. I don't remember. We should have. It's pretty embarrassing we didn't, because we've been playing the game for a few months. But the way, I don't know, the decision to launch it that way, I mean, I can't speak to that too much because I don't know the ins and outs of the reasoning to do it, but it was such a unique thing. I think something that some people may know about is that the weekend before the game launched, there were 2 closed behind closed door things for streamers, like streamer type events. Or one was for streamers, one was for press, I think. And that was in LA, and we had like a ballroom and we kind of took it over. And the first one was like every streamer you could think of at the time, like major streamer, with the exception of Ninja, I think, because I think like it was Super Bowl weekend or something, like, so he wasn't around, but everyone else was in this room. I have this photo and it's like Myth, Doc, Shroud, and it's like Lupo, like they're all sitting right next to each other playing Apex. So they got a chance to play it one day, and then the next day I think was press, or yeah, whichever order that was in. But they got a chance, and then the next, like the Monday or the Tuesday, it came out basically. And over that period, there was starting to be some leaks. Like I remember there was like rumors, like on various gaming sites, were like, "Hey, we're hearing rumors of Respawn's going to drop this game," and I was kind of a little nervous. I was like, I didn't really want it to like get out, but it was also kind of building some hype. People were like, wait, they're going to just drop a game? Like, what? That's crazy. And so just, I don't know, man, that whole experience, like I said, was kind of surreal. And one last thing on this, like, I remember we were on the 24 hours after the game was out, we were standing in the studio, and there was a toast by one of the guys, like the heads of the studio. And he was like, take this moment in, because like, you may not ever be a part of something like this ever again. Like this is like a freak thing, and so that's really stuck with me. And like I said, I don't know if I ever will be a part of something that much of a cultural moment in gaming again, but it's gonna stick with me forever, man, for sure. So yeah, super grateful to have been a part of it.
Do you by chance remember what like the view count was on that Twitch stream?
It was not high. I remember. I mean, it's like a few thousand, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, that's sturdy.
It's
not bad, but you did?
Well, I have the total view count here. I don't have like what the average views were.
Was it on like twitch.tv/respawn?
I'm looking at the YouTube one. I could try the twitch.tv/respawn, but I'm looking at the YouTube one because I actually came across, I was looking for B-roll for a video recently, and I came across this stream and I was like, oh, what's this? Official live review, 4 hours. I thought it might have been like a dev stream. And like you said, I was sitting there, I'm like, I'm just watching like King's Canyon footage right now. And I was confused about what I was watching because I'm watching it 5 years later. But then the top comment is someone time stamping every single moment that you just mentioned with like the
right, they're like little legend finishers.
Yeah,
clips,
legend,
right?
like, and they literally labeled it out like it's like Bloodhound 652, 1355, 2220, and they did it for every character. And I was like, so I would click around those the other day, and I was like, yeah, it was like cool to see that. And, like they would like glitch in and flash in and like that.
Yeah, literally, it's like a 3, like not even. It was like a 2-second thing. You're like, I don't even know what I just saw. Like if you've never seen Bloodhound, you have no idea what Bloodhound is. You have no idea what the finisher looks like. You're just like, the hell just happened? For like
I'm literally just watching one. It's Bangalore. It's like a shot of Market, and then it glitches in Bangalore and Bloodhound dying to like a caustic trap. Like that would be like so confusing to you. Like, what am I watching right now?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But like in total, obviously, like this could have got like views over time. Like we don't know, but it has 248,000 views. And like plenty of comments. Like I said, looking for those Easter eggs. So it's just kind of, it's crazy. Like at least it did sort of have like at least some sort of cultural impact. People were like, "What are we watching right now?" And they were
Yeah. And I mean,
staying
as
there
soon as the
long
game
enough.
came out, it was everywhere, right? Like every news
Yeah.
outlet was covering it. Like you said, every streamer was playing it.
Well, there's 25 million accounts, I think, in the first week, if I remember that
Yeah,
correctly.
there were some crazy stats that first week that we were releasing, and it was just like it kind of blew my mind, like at
It
the
was
time.
insane. And it was like when you're in the, I feel like you've seen this a lot. When you're in the gaming space, it always seems like there's some game, especially on Twitch, that for like a week or two will kind of take over and everybody's playing it. And then it kind of like falls off a little bit. And there's, it still has this hardcore fan base, but, people aren't really as like jazzed up about it. When I first heard about Apex, I was not interested whatsoever in playing the game. I was just like, 'cause I hadn't seen anything yet. The name, I was just like, nah, whatever. And then I remember seeing Tim the Tatman in Cascades fighting somebody and watching this crazy slide down a mountain, jumping on top of a roof, shooting through like the crack in the roof, jumping down, throwing the bubble, shotgun out, just bubble dancing with somebody. And I was like, what the hell was that? And I immediately I downloaded it, and it was like just like Jumba said, those other games I was playing, I did not care about anymore. And it was one of those times where I think that's what was so crazy about it was you mentioned those stats. I followed Apex on social media immediately afterwards, and the stats that were coming out were insane. Like the amount of people playing, the amount of people online concurrently, all these different stats, all these different things were going off. And it was just, it just felt like this was the next big thing, and it truly was. And moving forward, you guys get a little bit further down the line a little bit with Apex, right? When did the first talk come together about having a competitive scene? Like when did that first, chat come together where we're like, I think we can make this an esport, and a good one at that?
I mean, it's hard to know an exact time. Like I said, our team was kind of working on it for 6, 7 months or so before the game launched. And even at that time, we were like putting together concepts of a plan, I guess. Like we had like ideas. We were like, okay, well, how would we want to structure this? I would love to look back at those early documents now, by the way, and see like what we wrote. Like, Um, but we had like ideas even before the game launched of like what we wanted or what we saw the potential to be. But we also had no idea how successful the game would be. Like it ultimately is contingent on that, right? And so we had some ideas. I'm trying to remember exactly how we got. I mean, there were a lot of logistical and technical challenges early on too, like a ton. Um, the biggest of which lasted for a long time, was no custom lobbies. That was a pain in the ass. Like to run any sort of event meant, and so the first two events that we ran, by the way, were like this, which is the X Games and Poland, the preseason invitational. There was no custom lobby feature. So we basically had to pipe in all 60 player feeds. I mean, you guys should have seen like what the shit looked like. Like it was like Frankenstein. It was like a huge, like, I mean, we still kind of have these like multi-screen things, but it was like wild. You're getting like all 60 POVs, and then all the players had to play at the same resolution, because otherwise it'd be super jarring. You're like bouncing between POVs, and suddenly you're like, whoa, like everything just looks different, right? So the first couple tournaments, live events, we didn't have custom lobbies, and that also made it obviously really, really difficult to scrim in those early days. Made it really difficult to even run a tournament at all, which is why in the very early days there was all like kills race tournaments. You guys probably remember those. So we had to overcome a lot, but I mean that stuff was, the custom lobby tool was in development concurrently for a while we were starting to spin up some of the competitive stuff. But the very first LAN that you guys probably know is the X Games. That was the first time it felt like, I mean, I look back at, I mean, I don't know if which one I would say is like the first true LAN. I guess I would consider that the first true LAN. But it was the first time that we had teams playing together, and it felt like there was um, a real experience around it. Like it wasn't just like kills race over here, or like it felt like for the very first time people are coming together and playing in one place in the same conditions. And those conditions were insane, by the way. Like motocross is happening like next door, and they're like blasting. Like some dudes doing like BMX. Like it's just like it was rad. But I mean, a lot of the players look back at that now. They're like, dude, I couldn't hear my teammates because I'm hearing like freaking like yeah, like all this crazy motocross shit next to me or whatever. Because it was kind of pseudo outside. It was in the US Bank Stadium, I think it's called, in Minneapolis, and so it's kind of like an open air arena. But like, they were like right behind the stage. Like these guys are doing all this crazy stuff. Um, and that was the first true LAN, I guess. So it's hard to, I don't know. I don't know if there's an exact moment to answer your question to go back to it. But like I know that our team saw the potential, and certainly once the game came out and did what it did, we were like, man, this has so much potential as a title and for competitive play. And like um obviously things over the years have furthered that feeling, like match point, stuff like that kind of gives you that like real moment, and yeah, so
I
forever chasing that. I guess. Yeah.
I love that you brought up about like the rigs you guys used to use for like the observing and like everything like that, because it is like I'm someone who's like very nostalgic, and I love those early tournaments. They are what got me like hooked into like competitive Apex, and because that's what my content has been so focused around, like I watch them all the time, and it never fails to make me laugh. I've probably watched like X Games in Poland like 15 times each, and it never fails to make me laugh every time, like because there was no map feed, and like you said, like there wasn't a proper observer feed where you're just feeding like the feeds in. It never makes me laugh when they go, well, where's the circle right now, and they cut out to
I
like a
know.
camera feed
Yeah.
of a guy standing in front of 60 different POVs like this, and he's trying to squint at one of the POVs and be like, it looks like the circle is going to artillery, but he also has to guess where the circle's going because we don't know where the circle's going
Oh
next.
yeah, well that
And,
came
like,
even way later, right? Once we had like the ability
yeah.
to predict circles. Yeah, I know, man.
Yeah.
Those early days, it was tough. It was, I felt, the casters did a good job, man, with not a lot of
Mhm.
info, honestly. They're
Mhm.
like, they just got wiped by someone. I don't know. It's
It's
like,
like Golden Boy. He's like, I think that was DSM. I don't really know.
yeah,
It's like they're saying that, but it's like, it's I love that too, because when you see the development of like the observing, right? Like the fact that like in that early days, even though it maybe missed a lot of the action, like you didn't get to see everything because like it was fresh, it was new. There wasn't even anyone really doing competitive tournaments. Like there was some Fortnite stuff around, there was some PUBG stuff around, but you think like even H1Z1 had like a BR scene that was developing a pro scene, but then completely blew up and failed. So like it was like it still was kind of like you were carving the path, and like where it has come today. I love it. Like the observing, it does show that like people I think underappreciate how developed it's come in the show that is put on now. But even aside from that, it's really cool to see how high quality it is, and how special the game is, like a competitive standpoint. I think that even leads to like the fact that when I'm talking about those different games, I think Apex was the first VR you could even have that competitiveness with, because something with the character abilities, the gunplay, the movement made it feel like, where in other BRs, if you get snuck up on behind, there probably wasn't very much outplayability. Where Apex had that, where it's like the best teams could win, which we've seen, right?
yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to lead in because I know you were talking to me about like you weren't the person obviously that came up with Match Point, but you were there around like the early points with Match Point. If you want to even talk about like with those early formats, like
Oh
bringing in
yeah.
Match Point, everything like that,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, really quick, we'll get back to match point in just a sec, but
for
just on
sure,
the
for sure.
observing thing, I want to give a shout out real fast to the observing crew that we have. It's funny, like, I mean, dude, I perpetually live on the internet, which is sad. I'm on Twitter and Reddit way too much. And so I see, obviously the comments. I hope and I think I've seen a trend over the last year or two that the observing people feel like it's in a good spot. One of the things that I don't know if people realize is that some of the observers we have today have been with the game since Poland. Warchalk, for example, he's Polish. He told me this about a year ago. He's like, yeah, man, I was an observer in Krakow, which I did not even know, but it's just wild. I mean, these are like, you're going to be hard pressed to find people who really deeply understand the competitive side of the game better than people who've been with it since that time. Obviously, the tools that they have at their disposal now are much better. Um, but I actually feel like we've assembled over the last year or two a really awesome observing crew who are all over the world, by the way. and they get used among a lot of the regional shows. So like even long shot, they have like a slightly different crew, but they still lean on some of the same crew that we have internationally for the NA and EMEA streams. EWC used almost like the entirely the same crew. We just shamelessly hired Roots,
Just
who's like
poached
the
him from
goat.
long shot.
I did.
Yeah.
He's the man though. I mean, you can see some of the really cool stuff he's done for that show, and he's been cooking. I mean, Mannheim I thought was a big step up, and I mean I think that was his second week on the job, so like can't expect him to do a crazy amount in just a week or two. But like he's been cooking some really cool stuff. The BLGS, I'm not going to spoil it, but we've got a show coming for that. It looks really cool. He's been heavily involved in that. And then obviously Champs this year, that's going to be the first time he's going to be able to show off some of the stuff he's been doing. But like having him drive innovation across our show has been like a big focus and why we brought him. But there's a real commitment on our side to continue to iterate and improve the show. And people like Roots and the Observer crew, I think, don't get enough credit for how much they've really pushed things along. And I just look, I helped make the B stream. I love the B stream to death. I love Wing and Greek. You can cut this part out of the video though. I don't want them to see that, but like,
For sure.
but the the A stream to me, it's like it's a different beast, and I think it's come a long way. And I when I look at those early tournaments to where we're at now, and where the observing is, the production it's come such a long way. So I'm really proud of that team. And yeah, they're a good crew of people that we have, like a core crew, both on the talent side, like the casters, and also on the observing side and the production side. So hopefully you'll continue to see that stuff improve. Anyway, that was a tangent. Match point you asked about, right? How that came about. So you guys have seen probably the video that Peeps did with John, my boss. That kind of summarizes it pretty accurately in terms of like how it came about. For those who don't know, John has been an OG in the esports space for a really, really, really long time, way before my time. He was the commissioner at MLG for, I want to say, like over a decade or something. He's run tournaments for like every game you could probably name in that time period. Dota, CS, Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, probably all the FGC titles. Like he's done all sorts of stuff. And I just never met anyone who's like more interested in competition, not even just like esports, but like sports than him in my life. And that really shows in the way that he's brought innovation, I think, to the ALGS. And Matchpoint is obviously, I think, the biggest example of that, but also other things like POI draft recently, like that was kind of his brainchild. He's always seeking to try and push the envelope a little bit. And I still learn a lot from him, man. Like, it's awesome to have someone like that on the team. But I remember in those early days, I forget at what point that conversation happened around Match Point. It was maybe around the time we were planning for X Games, but we weren't quite ready because we had a lot of details to figure out with the Match Point format still. But it was around that time, a few months before Poland. I remember I was sharing an office with someone called Mark. His name online is Vivi. He does events for us now. And John walks into my office and he shuts the door behind him. And he's like, I think I've come up with like the solution to the BR endgame problem. And like we were always trying to think about this. Like we were like, how do we make the last few moments of a tournament really feel special, right? Because I'm sure you guys have too. I've watched a lot of other titles where it's like you kind of already know the outcome sometimes in some of these other games, and you're like, all right, either it's anticlimactic, and you're like, it doesn't matter who wins this game. Like they're just kind of throwing it. It doesn't matter. The audience is not super excited about that because they're like, whatever. The players are not super excited about it, or they're excited about it like 3 games early, and it feels weird, and then they're just like sitting there for 3 games or whatever. We wanted to solve for that, to make like that last moment be something that was like truly celebratory, really exciting. And at the same time, the core essence of a BR game is to be the last team standing. Like that is like the goal, right? And I remember he came into my office and he was just like, he drew a line on the whiteboard and he was just like, what if you had to get to a certain point threshold, and if you're above that line and you win a game, then you win the tournament. And as soon as you said that, I was like, holy shit, that's gold. That's awesome. Like, that's going to be the moment where like suddenly everyone's like, you have that moment of euphoria or whatever, right? And um, in my mind, it was kind of like tennis almost a little bit. It was like you have to win by, you have to win like by 2 or whatever. It kind of felt like that to me a little bit. And it just kind of made sense. And I was like, dude, this is amazing. Also, don't tell anybody because as soon as you do, I feel like it's going to show up everywhere really fast. And so we kind of kept it under wraps for a little while. I don't remember exactly when we told the players about it in Poland, but I do remember the reaction, which was like people hated it, at least when they first heard about it. And I point to that example often. And recently, I point to that example with talking to players about POI draft when they had issues with the POI draft. I was like, you guys hated match point too, and look where it is. And now, after a few months, I think I can look back and be like, look what you said about POI draft, and look at how you feel about it now.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. To me, it's one of the things that has made Apex Esports so special, and it's given us some incredible moments. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, and you just go in on Sunday, and like the energy is different, man. Like everyone's like, this is match point Sunday.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it truly is. It's transcended and made the BR competitively what it needs to be. Like, you were mentioning other titles, and I remember one time I was watching, I think it was Fortnite. I watched a heal off to end one of the major games, and I was like, that was not fun. They were just both healing off and just trying to figure out who's going to win based off the heal. And then with Apex, when it came to watching competitively, I wasn't fully aware of how it was until it was explained to me. And then I started to realize, okay, this is different. And not only just me, but like you said, when you go to the lands and you walk in on a Sunday, it just like you feel it in the air. There's just a change. Like you know that there is something on the line here, and it's big. And I had brought some friends with me. This is when I had met Jumba. I brought some friends with me to the LA LAN. And when we had gone in there, a lot of those guys weren't competitive Apex watchers. They just wanted to go just to go, like for a trip. By the end of it, I had one of my friends who did not care whatsoever. He's in a Cloud9 jersey, screaming his head off, wanting Dark Zero to die. And when they die, he jumps out of his seat. Yeah, he's just going crazy. And it made a fan for life. Like, that's what match point format has done. And I think
just even
it's
10 minutes
beautiful.
ago, we were watching scrims. Sorry to interrupt. I was just saying, like, we were watching scrims. Yeah. Like you're telling me they weren't fans, like, 6-7 months ago, but then, like, right before this call, we were sitting there watching scrims together, like because teammates, like, and there you go, like, you brought them up to that land, they get that excitement, and suddenly Kyle's watching scrims, like
religiously, out of nowhere,
right? Like shout out Kyle there, but like, yeah, it's funny, like, what that does, because, like, I think about even like traditional sports, right? Like, obviously, like, there's some times where it might be like a complete blowout in a final game, and that team's gonna win, right? But oftentimes, like, those, like, when you have the Super Bowl or the NHL finals, the NBA, like, there's like those moments where it's like it's down to the wire, there's a few seconds left, and someone needs to pull off a big play to solidify that they win, right? It happens all the time. And it felt like BRs, you didn't see that too often, because someone would take off, like, in the standings, they'd be like the for sure, like, team to win, or it might only be like 2 or 3 teams in the running rather than all the teams in the lobby. And match point has given everyone a reason to play every single game. Like EWC, we had the 20th place team. We're like, this 20th place team could shut this down and push this one more game right now, because they're like the only team alive. Like, can it happen? And like, there's a reason for them to play there.
Absolutely.
Whereas, like, if not, like, without it, they just, what's the point of them playing? What do they care? Like, maybe an extra few $1,000s, they have no value at that point, right? But match point,
yeah, I just think about the incredible moments it's given us over the years. I think back to the very first one being one of them, and in Poland when TSM won, and at that time there was kind of a interesting location, difficult to get to for a lot of people, so it wasn't like a ton of people in the audience. A lot of the people in the audience were other players, and we had 80 teams at that LAN, by the way, which is like insane to think about. We have 40 now, and that's a lot. Imagine double that. We had 80 teams at that LAN,
And I think you told me the other day no one missed it. You guys managed to get everyone to the tournament, you told me.
100% of players made it. I texted Eric, and we spoke really briefly before this, right? And I texted Eric to be like, "Hey man, how did we source 80 teams?" Because he was in Vegas this weekend competing, so I couldn't really speak with him. But I texted him, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I was just watching scrims, looking at the Liquipedia, talking to Kano. Kano came to that event, I remember.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, at that time we were fiending, man. We were like no lifing scrims all over the world and trying to pick the best teams to go to Poland. We sent 80 teams, and yeah, not a single player missed it. And at the end, like I remember the match freaking what, 8, 9, 10, 11, like it was the first time I heard the chants of like one more game, one more game. And it was like that. And people were cheering when teams were getting eliminated. And I was like, this is something really special, man. Like it felt really cool. And when TSM won at the end, like I think everyone cheered, and I think everyone felt like it was pretty well deserved in the arena too. It felt right. But I just think about from that through to some of the crazy storylines we've had since. Again, I hate to say it, TSM though, with the whole optic story, that whole thing that happened last year at Champs, insane. Like that was such a cool storyline. It felt almost like inevitable, but like you didn't know it. It was like this weird, even in the arena, it felt that way. And then, yeah, it's just given these really unforgettable moments. And I know Onset said he hated his line, but like it's given those moments too, right? For like the casters to have like a moment where it's like, this is the moment that the trophy is won. It's so significant. So I don't know. I'm an unashamed match point lover. To your point with the example of the Super Bowl and whatnot, like the World Cup final, those games are best of ones. Yes, granted, teams have had to earn their way to get to that game, to that match. But those games in isolation are not like the ultimate. They're not like the ultimate, most intense, grueling game that's going to determine who like the team over the longest term, has deserved to win. Right? It's like it's ultimately like who wins on the day, who shows up on the day. And I think maybe match point, you could argue like from that perspective, is not as strong as like doing an 18 match series or whatever. But I would love to see the numbers, honestly, of how many. And I think maybe you and I was talking to Jayhawk the other day too. Like I would be curious to see the stats. I imagine the numbers are going to be pretty damn significant. That top 2 team has won, a match point almost every time.
I put out a tweet about it like a while ago. I think maybe that's what you're thinking about because I had tagged you because like someone was kind of replying to the tweet saying match point sucks, the best team doesn't win. And I was like, well, from every land going all the way back to Poland, like TSM was first at Poland. Then after you take Sweden, Dark Zero was first, or they reignite, but that team was first. And then Champs and Rally, that was probably the only time where a team that wasn't up there like didn't win, but like Dark Zero wins, but they finished 5th overall. But then you go back to I think it was London, and TSM had the second most points but won. And then you go to the next one, and Dark Zero has first overall points. And then Champs, TSM has second most points. And then Reject has first points. And then, like, if you count EWC, Alliance had second most points by 2 points. And then this most recent one, SSG finished third, but they were 1 point behind Alliance, who was in second, right? So overall, you're trending that one of the best performing teams in the lobby is winning every single time. And like, when you're saying like the essence of a battle royale is to be the last one standing, that matters. Like that matters about being the team to win. That's the point of it. And like, even though you want to say like maybe a team like Dark Zero maybe deserved it at EWC, or GG deserved it at Split 1 play or Split 2 playoffs, the most recent one, right? You can say that they deserved it, but both those teams came out to hot starts, got a lot of points, and then just couldn't close it out. And the essence is, if you can't win, if you can't be the last one standing, you're not the best in the BR. So that's the way I see it. That's why I'm such a big fan of the format as well. And I think the reactions of the crowds also tells that story. Like it really doesn't feel like it matters who wins. Everyone goes nuts every time.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you see it also in the viewership online, right? As like games go into really long series, like the viewership and the excitement within the arena just continues to reach kind of like this boiling point. there will maybe one day come a time where a team that's not in the top 3 or top 5 wins. Like, it's possible. It's certainly possible, right? It can happen, but we haven't really seen it yet, which has been kind of wild. So again, I'm a big match point lover, and I think thankfully most of the community is now too. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say like even if like theoretically like an 18 like say you like had 18 matches over like a decent amount of days to like really figure out who is the best, who deserves it, it would not even remotely come close to like as like an entertainment aspect, because I've always been of the position of like match point absolutely would be miserable to play in as a player, especially if you are one of those top teams. And like back when it was way easier to target than it is
Oh
now,
yeah.
definitely you gotta hate it as a player. But from a like viewer perspective, it truly is like the thing that like makes Apex Apex, and has it just it really just draws people in a way that like other esports hadn't taken the chance on such a format as this.
Yeah.
And so
Big shout out to
I'm
John
right there
Nelson,
with you.
man.
It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. No, big shout out to John Nelson for pushing that through. And like I said, I think players probably love to hate it, which I totally understand. But as a fan of the sport, and I try and remember sometimes that we're not just building a competition, we're building a sport. It's a little different. Um, I think it's such a great thing that Apex has. So
So
yeah.
one of the other things that I think makes our game special is the B stream, and I think it's when I was talking with Greek, I had told him that I think there's a lot of other titles out there that wish they had the ability to have a stream like that. I just don't think it can be replicated. I just their personality shows through in a completely different way, and you can't fabricate that. Like you just can't make it off the top. Like you just can't do it. So when it comes to the story of the B stream and how it all came together, from your perspective, how did this thing that I think makes our game so unique, how did it all come together?
Well, the B stream is the thing that I'm maybe one of the things I'm most proud of because I've been so close to it since the beginning. I can't take credit for launching Apex or any of that, but the B stream, like, it came about out of necessity, but it's something that myself and Joseph, at the outset, at the very beginning at least, were really involved in. And it's just so cool to see where it is now, man. I mean, where it has come since the first time we did it in Stockholm. Um, the video that Jayhawk put together, like, I watched that and it was super nice to see that because he captured most of the stuff pretty accurately, honestly. It started off out of necessity. There were, in the early days, we had 2 different stages at the ALGS events, happening concurrently. Going back to Poland, we kind of had that. We had 2 different stages, one of which was on the main broadcast and the other one that kind of wasn't. So it was just like you would just see the results on Wikipedia or whatever, um, which was not great. And it wasn't a great experience. And so when we were coming back to LAN after COVID, when we were planning for having 2 different stages, we're like, well, we can only have like the casters and the observers and like a huge stage set up for one of them. Like, what do we do for the other one? And again, in Jayhawk's video, he kind of talks about this, but like around that time, Wig was starting to do a lot of like watch party type stuff. And I've known Wig for a really long time. I mean, like, going back to X Games is probably the first time I met him in person. But I've known him since, he played for CLG, and we've been friends since then. And so when this sort of thing was building over time, his watch parties, I remember, I don't even know how it came up initially internally, but we were like, well, what if we were, instead of like to do like an official thing, what if we had like a community caster kind of do it, kind of like what Wig's doing? And then I don't know where it came up. I honestly don't remember like if I just like mentioned it to John and I was like, what if we have Wig just like come out and do it, like just have him cast it. And the very first time, I mean, there was definitely a lot of questions around that sort of a thing because obviously it's an uncontrolled stream. Like, it's not like we own it or control it, and there was a lot more nerves around it the first time. But I mean, I've known Wig, and I didn't know Greek actually at this time. I didn't really know Greek, but I knew Wig, and I was like, I know Wig's an awesome dude. He's a genuine dude. He's not going to try and do anything that's going to be sus, and like he's gonna try and work with us, and he's gonna be super grateful for the opportunity. So I just kind of chatted with him. I was like, dude, do you want to come out to Stockholm? Like, we're gonna do this thing. Like, you can do a watch party live on site, and he was like all about it. And at the time, I forget if I asked him or if he suggested, but I was like, yeah, if you want to bring somebody, like, who would you want to bring? And I think it was Greek. And obviously they started living together at that time, and he like sat in on some of his watch parties, that sort of stuff. It wasn't like a fully formed duo at that time, right? Um, and so he was like, yeah, Greek. And I was like, okay, I don't really know Greek, but that's fine. And then they came out to Sweden, and I was telling Jumbo this the other day, and it's not something that I think Greek mentioned or Jayhawk noticed in his stream or in his video, but it's a pretty good story. Is like that initial first B stream was actually in a kitchen. Like, people don't know that. It's like there's like literally it's like like there's a sink right off camera. You can't see it. It's pretty awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and right next to the monster fridge that I was like lugging monster at him like in that event. He was like chugging so much of it. And that actually was an upgrade, by the way. They were initially in like a meeting room. Like, they were going to be in a meeting room. That event was not open to fans. It was it was like tail end of COVID studio event. So it was like in a kind of closed off building, and there was an uh, office like meeting room that had like a small window that you could see the stage. And so we were going to set them up there. And we were also worried about noise. We're like, dude, Wig gets freaking loud. Like, we all know. Even at that time, I was like, I know this guy. Like, he's going to be super loud. So we're like, where can we put him? It's not going to disturb everybody. So we put him in like this meeting room. And then I remember we saw like the kitchen was next to this meeting room. And it's like, it had this like huge window that could see the stage. And I was like, well, what if we just like put him in the kitchen, and they have like this awesome view of the stage? And everyone like Wig and Greek were like, hell yeah, this view is awesome. Like, we'll do it. So we moved the setup to like this kitchen area. And yeah, man, I mean, that's where also like the memes around the green screen like kind of started. And we had so much fun with that too. Like, we purchased a green screen, and like at one point I actually had it be a green screen. And then like I took a clip, or I forget if it was me or Joseph, and we like clipped the background of their thing and like put it as like the green screen background. Like, we just had a lot of fun with it. It was super fun. And especially coming back to LAN, it was my first time back to LAN, since Poland, basically. It was like a kind of like a pet project for me and Joseph at the time. Like, how can we just like have fun with this thing and like try and build it into like this cool experience for people in a way that like they've never seen competitive Apex really like that. Um, I saw your interview with Greek where you were like, did EA ever tell you stuff you can't say? We're pretty hands off, honestly. Like, we are. Like, I trust those guys. There's been a few sus moments where it's like, guys, you can't be saying that on a stream. Like,
Yeah.
you can't be saying that.
Yeah. I can
But
imagine.
like, generally, like, they're pretty respectful dudes. I mean, like, they're not trying to. Obviously, they have fun, And if anything was like insanely over the line, we would chat with them. But like, they're pretty respectful generally, and like, it's part of the vibe. Is like, we want to keep that, Like, it should feel like you're hanging out with your buddies, watching this thing, and it should feel like it's a totally different experience from what you get on the mainstream. And so we've just tried to embrace that, and over time we tried to build on it every time, like try and do something kind of cool and different from one event to the next. And so Stockholm, obviously no live spectators. The next event was Raleigh, and in Raleigh, um, the B stream was so successful, even for Wig and his viewership. Like, at that time, he was like, "Holy crap! This was like, at that moment, was probably his peak viewership he'd ever had." And so we were like, okay, well, how do we get you in front of fans, but like have it be in an area where you're not going to get like accosted the whole time? So we put him. It's where the Hurricanes play hockey, and it was their merch store. We like converted it into like this like green, like, it was kind of like a I don't know, like a green box, or it's like a greenhouse box. It's like just like you could see in from all directions, and fans were walking around behind. You guys saw the guy with the body pillows there for like 4 days or whatever.
Shout out Liam.
Yeah, Liam, that was it. Yeah. And we set that up there, but that was cool. We got in front of fans, for the first time there. And then following years, depending on the venue, we try, and now like we've changed it around a little bit, but when we have the space to do it, I know that the guys like to be on the floor, because like they like to be in front or as close to the players as possible, so they can like grab them for interviews and stuff like that. Um, every venue is really different. Every venue has a different floor plan. Every venue has like different fire escape routes. Like there's just like all these things to take into consideration. Um, so we try to find a place for them wherever we can. I actually think that the location we had for them in Germany was pretty sick. It was like kind of, it's similar to where it was in LA, but just with a better angle. But it was kind of like up on the concourse and, you know, like an angle down to the stage. It looked really cool from up there. Um, and we're trying to get them back on the floor again for champs because I know they really like that spot. But again, every venue is different. Somewhere like in LA, the floor space that we actually have is pretty tight on the floor, and the stage takes up so much space. We just can't put 6 different watch parties down there. Like that takes up all of the remaining space, and we had to build a real analyst desk and caster desk, and like have space for people to kind of come in and out and all that stuff. So it's always just like a constant juggle basically at all these events with the floor plan. So you'll probably continue to see it move around a little bit, but like I said, we're trying to always think of ways that we can try and improve the experience for them and make it better for them and all the fans. So for anyone who does watch the B stream, and if you're watching this, like thank you guys for tuning into that too. Like I said, it's like one of my favorite things that I've been a part of because it kind of started completely organically and it's just been fun, and it's been really cool working with Wig and Greek on that, just like, you know, completely cooperatively. Like we're all just like bouncing ideas off each other, like what can we do to continue to improve this thing and just make it bigger and better every time. And yeah, it's been rad, man, and it's so cool to see where it's come now from where it was, you know, from Stockholm. So
Well, I love that because like two things I want to kind of just highlight in on a little bit more is I'm not even sure if you fully remember, but I feel like the B stream kind of even actually birthed like a little bit before Sweden, because there was I don't know if it was the year one champs or if it was another tournament, but I know that Wig had an official B stream for one of those online tournaments at the
yeah,
time.
yeah, he was doing like watch party things. I don't know if it was called the Beast. I forget what it was called, but yeah, I remember because we gave him stream overlays for it too.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was
Yeah.
called the B stream. I do remember like because I've done like a whole deep dive on Wig 2 obviously, and I do remember like the overlay
Okay.
where it said like official B stream there, and I
I'm
always
getting
thought
old,
that
man.
was
My
cool
memory's
too.
going. I don't know.
Yeah, I am fortunately nerd out about this stuff every day. But yeah, so like I remember that like was pretty cool. And so then when he got the invite, like Sweden was awesome. But I wanted to focus in more on like that story of the kitchen, because it's something so cool where it felt like it was an intentional decision to put them there, because it's like, oh well, this is a way cooler backdrop. They can see the stage, you can see the players. But what was unintentional is obviously is what the result was. No one could have ever planned and predicted that viewers would start thinking that like, are you actually there or are you on a green screen? It looks like you're on a green screen. And like that the joke would run into like something that has now spawned into like it's the branding for the BLGS, which that alone, like, you know, you have ALGS and then B, like it's like a double entendre. It's
I
a
know.
secondary like league, but then it's B for because the B stream, but then after also too, like you got the green screen behind it, like you guys got emotes for them in the game now, and then like there's just so much that they've done with like the green screen vibe, and like you guys have put in like the branding every time like they're on a video, like they have a green screen behind them. It's like it's cool like how unintentional that stuff was and what it's kind of like resulted in of all these years. And I was even saying to you in that call we had the other day of like what it's led to in like Wig and Greek helping put other people on the multi-language streams now. I don't think anyone could have predicted it, and like Wyatt said, I don't even know like if any other games could have really executed on that, because again, the other thing that's really different about the B stream is it's not them just watch partying the main cast and like bringing their personalities. They do a lot of work on their own with like being observers too, and it's just brought like such a cool dynamic that yeah, it's just it's amazing. And what it's done for them, what it's done for the community, what it's done for I think the growth of the Apex esport, and branding it to like even people who have never watched before, I think has been like crazy to witness in pretty
I
cool
know.
ways.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way, man. I mean, shout out to Jasmine on the BLGS name. That's what she came up with that.
Oh wow.
I remember we were talking about what is now the BLGS, like a online tournament series to kind of fill this gap between the two lands. And I think I had the idea of like, well, what if we have like Wig and Greek own this thing and it becomes like their thing, and they are the ones watch partying it, have them have some fun with it, And then Jasmine was like, well, what if, if the B stream's doing it, what if we call it the BLGS? And I was like, dude, that is money. That is a great name.
It's so sick.
It's such
It's
a great
so
name.
sick.
And then when
10 out of
we
10,
worked on
no
the
doubt.
branding, what's that? Sorry?
Oh, it was just 10 out of 10.
It's
Oh
so
yeah,
sick.
no, Jasmine nailed that. It was a great name. And then obviously, where that is like kind of gone with the branding now, and like the little green screen, it's like a little post-it note or a green post-it note or whatever. And even the intentionally scuffed video that I did with them, that's like, Hal's kind of in the corner giving a thumbs up. Like, we literally shot that video in one take. Like, like we just like wung it. Like, there was like no script, and intentionally though, right? Because we did the whole, like, especially in Mannheim, we did like the whole Rostermania video. That was like, dude. And by the way, Wig can act. Like, that guy, I could not believe when he was turning it on. Like, I mean, he said, his mom said that he took like acting lessons, and I can see it. Like, it was crazy. He was really good. But we went from like the scripted piece that had like cameras up in his face, and like, like, we built like a set and all that, to like the BLGS video, which is like literally sitting in an empty room with a green screen, and it's just like intentional. It kind of looks like The Office, like things are out of focus and it's scuffed, leaning into that vibe as much as we can. I mean, it's been awesome. It's been super fun to be a part of that too. And the last thing on that is like, I one of the things that Wig and I talk about sometimes that I am really proud of is, I feel like we were one of the first people to do a B stream like that, like in the space. There have been watch parties for a really long time, but having people on site with their own access to an observer client, like in the game, again, part of that initially was out of necessity. Bear in mind, like, we didn't have a stream for the second stage, so it was like, all right, well, if we want to have these guys observe the games, they have to be on site, because like we can't like have them dial in on LAN remotely. So it was like, well, we're gonna have them on site, and then they had an observer spot. But obviously it works. I mean, the guys know the game. They've both been competing in the game, so all of that. I remember when we first did it, it was a few months later I started seeing some other titles do it, and I was like, I just hope people remember, like, hey, we did it first by a few months, I think.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just something you can't replicate. What those two guys have, that chemistry. You just it's just too hard to come up with something like that. Like you said, sometimes they can get a little crazy with it, but I think that's what we love. And honestly, I was being 100% truthful in that interview with Greek. I was not a B stream watcher. I've always been, and I always loved the regular stream. But I think what you can get from both streams is that you're going to get the storylines from the main broadcast. You're gonna learn a lot of different stories and what's going on in the main broadcast. And then on the B stream, you're going to learn a lot more of the technical stuff, which I wasn't privy to because I hadn't watched it yet. I hadn't really like taken time out to watch it. I really love traditional sports, and I love the idea of just how broadcasts are set up, which is why I was always attracted to the main broadcast. But when I just watched on this last LAN, watching the B stream, I realized the importance of it. And not only just because you get to learn the technical stuff, but you get to learn the personality as well. And I think that's what's made it last and do so well for so long. And I think it's just going to keep growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, adding more eyeballs to the esport. And I kind of wanted to jump to that, which was obviously we've mentioned so many of these little things that I think at the time we look back on and we kind of shake our head and laugh. Like you were mentioning early days, we didn't have the private lobbies, so we would just have kill races. As funny as that is, like we can look back on that and be like, wow, that was actually like, I feel like it all played out like it had to, right? Like there had to be some struggles here and there. We had the LAN that was technically not a LAN because it was during COVID time, and listening to Onset talk about how they had to figure that out. And then, the different moments that like all of the things fell in place perfectly. And I think it's grown more and more and more. From your perspective, watching it grow and seeing where it's gone so far, like what kind of feelings does that generate for you?
um I mean, again, there's every event I have like a moment where I kind of step back and I'm like, damn, we built this thing. And that's such a surreal feeling. um for me, this last LAN, it was this is gonna sound stupid. It was like the music, and I remember sending a message to our production team. It was the music that would play when teams were about to drop into a match. You know, it was like this. I don't know where they got that music. I was like, "Yo, you are keeping that music." Like it is the most. It would like get me like I'm ready to go to war. I was so hyped, you know, and every time they'd play this thing, and I was just like, I don't know, man. It was like I kind of got goosebumps every time standing there just watching like the next round's about to start, and every event I have like a moment like that, you know, and often it's the same. And it's kind of boring, I guess, to say this. Often it's kind of the similar sign of kind of moment like that, where it's like on the last day, and you're seeing like a packed room, and all these people are there. And what's crazy is like they're there because they love the game. Like everyone's there because they love the game, or they love something about the game. Like they love one of the players that's playing in the game, and it's just cool to think that like we've been able to build some sort of a platform like this, like that touches and reaches so many people. Like that's such a humbling experience, honestly. Like it's amazing. um and so I'm super grateful for that. I don't know if there's any like specific moment that stands out as like the one moment that's been like the most impactful for me. I suspect that might be champs coming up. Because I mean that's just been a long time coming for it to be in Japan, of course. But just like, you know, off the back of put tickets on sale the other day, sold out within it seems like minutes or hours. You know, and just like the demand for it has been unreal. But like I don't know if there's a specific moment that's really stood out. But like I said, I do get goosebumps, man. Like almost every event. Like I at some point, um, and they're a gauntlet, dude, to work these events. Like I know, you know, for players it's a lot, but it's a lot also for staff. Like we're also there a lot of these days, like 12-hour days, longer, and we're there many days before the events as well to set up and everything. But it's just so worth it, dude. Like it's the best feeling, honestly. Um, and one thing you mentioned about the storylines in the A stream, something that I think we've done a really good job of the last couple of events has been the content. Like I think we've really tried to lean in on like what the community, like the humor that the community has, like layered jokes, like the Rostermania thing. Credit to Marlena, she's on the EFG team. Lene, I don't know if you've seen her. You guys know her, Jumba. You know her, obviously. A lot of maybe the wider folks don't know Lene. She's gosh, I forgot her title now. She has a new title,
She's
but
yeah. I was gonna say actually I forgot the new title too. I was gonna
she
say
has a
it,
new
but I
title. She yeah,
forgot.
but she's God, I'll look up her title in a moment. But basically, she's like one of the main brains behind a lot of the content that you're seeing out there. Writing all the scripts for stuff like the TSM unscripted video, the Rostermania video, editing it together. Like we have a passionate group of people who really genuinely care about the community and the scene, and I feel like it's you can see it in the videos. Like they wouldn't hit if it wasn't like all these people are like in on it all and part of the scene themselves, you know. And so I want to continue doing more fun content like that. It's been rad, and it's been fun to be a part of them too. I've been like guest starring in some of those. It's been a fun journey too.
Yeah, Lene is the senior editor and content producer. And like an interesting thing is like I remember reaching out to Lene before LA because I was going down to help Jay with some videos and just try to do some content. And I decided I was like, you know what, let me hit up Lene and just let her know like, hey, I know that I was like aware like through the grapevine that she was like the person in charge of a lot of the content there. And I said like, look, I'm like, there's not many people who know like about like the history of like these Apex games, these old Apex games and stuff like that. So if you need any help with other, you know, the reactive content pieces, because for people who aren't aware, when you guys do content, there's like content that's planned, but then there's reactive content, stuff that like something that happens in group stages or winners bracket, they make videos that day for the tournament. So it was like, if you need help with like those reactive pieces and trying to script out some things to tie it into previous events or tournaments, I'm like, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. She's like, yeah, I've been doing this like since the beginning, and like, you know, like I've been there since every event, like editing every video. So like I've watched all those old tournaments a million times. Like, oh, Lene, you may be one of like 5 people to also watch Poland 15 different times too. It's true. And so
She's like an
yeah,
encyclopedia. It is, dude. She knows
absolutely,
way
yeah.
more than me. It's crazy when we come up with like the scripts for some of these pieces. I 100% make sure she's involved. Like she's driving it because she just knows everything about everything. Like it's wild how much she knows. Part of it's because her job is like going through all the footage like a million times. But she's just like, she cares so much. And again, there's so many people behind the scenes who I think deserve a shout out here. I'm hoping, I think I mentioned this to you, Jumbo, the other day. Like I'm hoping one of the content pieces that we're going to do for this LAN, and I've talked about this on Reddit a little bit too, is I would love to do a content piece that's like behind the scenes at ALGS, like what goes into making an event, and just also introducing people to like obviously like the backstage, what it looks like, you know, the stage that's being built, whatever, but also like the people who they may not be as familiar with or can put a face to the name. Show them the league ops area, show them people like Lene, show them the observer area, like those people who are in there like grinding their asses off observing the matches, the production truck, like these are all really cool areas. Whenever I post a photo or a video of those on Twitter, like it blows up because people are like, holy shit, I didn't realize there's like an army of people back there like running these shows. And you know, they really do, they genuinely really do care. Like so many of these people really care. You know, Ben as well on the production team, Jumbo, like these guys live and breathe Apex, and especially competitive Apex. They're such fans of the game, the personality. And so yeah, it'd be a really fun content piece to be able to do something like that. Just kind of go back there and show from everything from the people that you see, the talent, you know, all the way to like the people backstage who are helping make it work, to like our security guy who everyone now knows him, you know, Big Mike, who's in the TSM video. Like he's our head of security. Like just show all these people off because I think they deserve it, you know?
Gotta have a security guy named Big Mike. There's just no.
He brings out the
just
trophy
gotta
every time too. Dude.
Yeah.
He's like,
You just got to have a Big Mike on the squad.
yeah, absolutely.
I think one content piece just for this podcast exclusively that we would love to see is going on the top bunk and the bottom bunk of each of the of the actual, you know, stage where the players are playing at, because we love to ask that question at the end
What's
of
their
every show.
favorite?
What's their favorite top bunk, bottom bunk? I think that would be a good one, just because I want to know what's going on the top bunk. I think I have a pretty good idea of what the bottom bunk is, but I need to see I need to see the stairs to get up. I need to see everything.
Actually, for pitching ideas here, Wyatt, I think one that we could even level up too. Why don't we just analyze on the main broadcast everyone's celebrations and who's got the best celebration, and
championship celebrations, or another good content piece. One more, has more lands been won from the top or bottom bunk, and which exact bunk has the land been won from? That's one question right there. That's a good one right there. Just throwing ideas
I do know
out.
that teams have preferences. I can't speak to this because I actually don't know. I would ask our league ops guys, but I'm pretty sure that at the very least historically there has been, you should ask a player because they would know this for sure. I'm pretty sure that they there was preferential like pick based on like your seating going into the lobby.
Based on
I'm
how
pretty
you place.
sure.
Yeah.
Because I know that players definitely have a preference. And obviously now, I don't know if that's still there given the POI draft stuff, because obviously that's like the incentive now is like you get dibs on the POI, right? I assume there's still something there. But yeah, you should ask some of the players, or you know, we'll get one of the league ops guys to answer.
Oh, we ask them every time. And then I'm pretty sure Kimchi last week said that like in Germany that your placement still, you got to choose your seating.
Oh, you got both?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
we're well studied. In terms
on the
of the
top bunk,
top bunk, bottom bunk issue.
Yeah. Man, I mean, I remember the first time we went back to LAN, it was the first time we had two levels like that, and there was a lot of people who did not like the top. And I think we've also, I mean, we learned from that too. Like it was our first time running a multi-level stage. And so one of the things that we took away from that was like, all right, we need to make this thing like, because it was a little, I mean, I'll be honest, man, it wasn't that bad, but some people were complaining it was a little shaky. And we just learned from that though. And we're like, all right, we have to make this solid. So like it does not shake as much. And, you know, and so that was something that we took away. And I think I haven't really heard any real complaints since.
We have heard reports that it has gotten sturdier.
Better.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, 100% it has.
We will give you that feedback.
Thank you.
We've asked around. We have heard that it did get better.
Mm-hmm. And even if they did complain, at least in year 3, every single LAN was one on top. I know that for sure. I can't remember Rally. No, Rally didn't really have a top bunk, bottom bunk. It didn't. Or Sweden. So yeah. So last year, all 3 LANs were one at the top. I know that for sure. We've like you know,
We've
just
done
said,
the
we're well
research.
studied. We're
We're well
studied.
studied
Wait,
when
really?
it comes
Are you
to
sure?
the top and bottom bunk.
Yeah, we went through it with Hal, especially because Hal was like starting to say bottom bunk, and we realized he won his lands at the top. And I know for sure that Dark
Wait,
Zero
I
won
remember
at the top.
TSM in Poland. What did
Well,
D?
Poland. Okay, actually, wait. He just brought in a new layer. Poland did have a top bunk, bottom bunk. I
They
didn't even
did.
think
Oh, no.
about that.
Poland,
Shoot.
no, TSM. Where I remember they were up top in Poland. I'm trying to remember. I could have sworn, dude. I mean, I'm just tripping now. Are you sure TSM weren't on the bottom bunk when they won in Copper Box in London?
No, they
I
were at the top.
swear they were.
I reviewed it. I reviewed the footage.
Wow,
They were
my
at the
brain
top.
is okay.
Yeah.
Foggy. I swear, I thought they were on the bottom. Same with DZ.
Jumbo
I
can
thought.
send you a clip.
DZ, I
He's
know
got
they
you.
were at the top because the video I worked on for DZ, I remember Zero specifically like coming out over the crowd like this, and he was up in the air, and like there's like a really good shot from like one of the DZ camera guys with Zero just like this with his arms out over the entire crowd.
Dude, I feel like if you had told me they were all on the bottom, I 100% would believe you because I feel like in my mind they are, but maybe they're not. Wow, I totally.
I'm not
This is
familiar
the
with
juice
this
this
year.
podcast brings.
I can't
This
remember.
is the juice.
But yes.
Who else is having combos like this?
I
Talking
think-
about this, championship
The heavy
celebrations,
hitting-
who has the best DAP, all that
I
stuff.
will say
We've got
we
it
have
all.
our
stuff.
behind the scenes. We got our analyst Donnie. He helps us during the regular season, but you know we're not analyzing too much stuff right now. So he actually did drop a tweet today with the numbers of the top bunk versus bottom bunk, who wins where, and then also he also dropped it right side and left side. So like he really nailed it in his analysis there. I
I
think
feel
it's
like it's always right side.
I think it's right side top bunk is most consistent. So players
That's
you want
a
to
hot
win,
spot.
right side top bunk. That's where you're winning land. That's where.
So any LAN attending pro player who's listening to this right now, you just got the alpha on where to position.
If you're superstitious
Nowhere else.
at all,
Well,
listen
no, that's
to
not
that.
even super. That we got the statistical hotspot.
Since year 2 champs, credit of DK Don 06, our analyst. Right side of stage has won 5 out of 7 lands. Top versus bottom, top has won 4 out of 7 lands. Top right has most wins with 3. It's crazy, huh?
Food for thought.
It's like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's almost 50% of them on the top right. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if anyone ever wins another land from top right, just please in your thank you speech be like, and shout out the Apex podcast for nailing in what really matters here.
Yeah. One thing I've always wondered about when it comes to these lands is we talked a lot about the pros and what they do after an event is over. They go back, they VOD review, they figure out what they did wrong and all that kind of stuff. Is there any sort of VOD review that you guys go through as a team to figure out what you want to change or improve upon going into the next one?
Yeah, I mean, we don't call it VOD review. I guess technically some of it's a VOD review. Absolutely, though. Yeah, I mean, like, look, these events take many, many, many months to plan. I think Greek kind of mentioned some of that too. You know, like we sometimes have venues a year out, 9 months out. 9 months is like cutting it close. A lot of the times, just because like venues get booked up. So like we are planning, while we don't get like into the depths of like every little detail until closer to an event, like we're planning for future events way far out in advance. So we often are looking at like what went really well at that event, what wasn't so great. We do, I'm pretty sure the league operations team does surveys around the events. They ask a bunch of questions. I know that internally we also have some sort of surveys that go out like on the Twitch stream that are like, rate your feedback on the stream. So we take all that into consideration, but a lot of the feedback honestly comes internally where it's like, I mean, dude, I'm in the arena watching stuff too. I'm on Twitch on my laptop at the same time. Like I see stuff when is not going the way it should, or, you know, I feel like something could be better or whatever. And I'm giving that feedback to our team and everyone on our team is. So like there's definitely a lot of post-morteming where we're like, what went well? What didn't go so great? What can we do to make it better for next time? So there's a ton of that. And I actually think, again, if you look back to our early events to now, like they've gotten a lot better. I feel like just in a lot of different ways. Player experience is generally a lot better. You know, even stuff from like we were talking about before this pod, like catering. I think people are generally more fans of the catering now than they used to be. So it can be as like silly stuff like that to stuff like iterating on the stage, like you just said. Like now it's not as shaky on the top level. That took a concerted effort to reinforce the stage. You know, that's not like a simple thing that we can just like stick some glue on it. You know what I mean? Like that takes like real work to actually build a stage that's more solid. So our team definitely does a lot of that. And I feel like across the board, like we're trying to make it better from event to event. And the difficulty that I hope people, I've seen people kind of say this, is like we're taking a show on the road and it's a big show. And every arena, every location is different, and there's different challenges in every single one, right? And they're all solvable, I guess. But like, you know, running an event in LA has its own set of challenges. Running an event in Germany has its own set of challenges. Running an event in Japan has an entirely different set of challenges. So like juggling all of that, no one event is the same. No venue is the same. Venues have their own policies around a lot of different things. Some venues don't allow us to like give stuff away, or they don't allow things like thunder sticks or whatever. Like there's just like all these different things that we always have to juggle from event to event. And I think we've gotten better at it. But you know, always room for improvement. And we're gonna continue trying to iterate and make everyone better than the previous one. So I feel like we've gotten a lot better this year. I think we've leveled up a lot of stuff, especially on the broadcast side. I think that's come a long way, and so the content I think has gone a lot better, and I'm hoping we can keep pushing. You know,
Well, even something so simple as, and I know this debuted at EWC, but like, and I was privy to this information before because I had heard people talk about it there. Like you said, it was the same like production team behind the scenes there that does all ALGS, but like the bar at the top that tells you when a team dies, or the bar at the top that like it tells you a team's reviving, like that I feel like changed so much, because like in those moments where you have a team pull off a late clutch res, and then you're like, oh my god, this team's back in, like they could do something here, it just creates a lot of excitement. And like something as so small as that, but it's like, you know, is something that obviously there's an internal conversation where it's like, hey, this information is lacking from the viewers, you know, and even the observers, like, or like the casters, right? So it's like, if we have something like this gives everyone like a piece of information that builds to that story of the moment. And like it does, like we saw that Twisted Minds revive, which I still talk to about a
this is
bunch today,
awesome.
right? Like
Yeah,
something that wouldn't have had that sort of I almost want to say like conviction, like in the moment, that it ended up having, right? It was just so cool. But like,
yeah, the context it gives you in the
yeah,
moment, it changes the storyline of the game,
absolutely.
right? Like it completely changes it, and that's massive. And I feel like for a game like a BR, where it is basically impossible to capture all the action all the time when there's 20 different teams, it helps a lot to have data.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I know Roots has been really big on. Longshot's been doing something similar to that, like that overlay that you're talking about for a while. Pushing the technical innovation where more and more of these things can get automated, really makes things a lot better. So like that can happen now automatically from the data. If the data is like, hey, this player is being respawned, like that sends a trigger that we can then like automatically play the animation or whatever, so people know. Um, and I feel like that's gotten better across the board. Even our LEDs. This is one of the things that I feel like you don't capture as much on a stream at home that I think in person is really cool. Is like when a ring is closing, like now we take over all the LEDs. It says like ring closing in the arena. You know, that's dope. When a player or a team is eliminated, like their booth like LED changes saying like the team's eliminated. Now I think we've got it for revives. So it's just like all those overlays that you see online are kind of also there on the LED screens in the arena too, which is dope. All these things add for a much more interactive and like compelling narrative. Like you actually kind of follow the action more, you know? And to your point about match point, I feel like it also helps people who don't understand the game as well. Like my girlfriend came to one of our events last year. I think it was in London. And like knowing who was on match point, like it was the first time we started highlighting with the LEDs who was on match point, like helped her understand like, oh, these are the teams remaining, you know? And that sort of stuff helps make it more accessible to people who are maybe less familiar, you know, than hardcore Apex nerds. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I even remember we had the scores up. There was live scores in LA, which I loved because we were sitting there like, this team's rotating, they're on match point. And like, even though you weren't watching their point of view, like in the crowd, we were like sitting with a group of like random people because I was just with Jayhawk and Burke in the crowd on the final day, but then I had like a bunch of randoms around me, and we're all shouting the same stuff together, and it felt like this whole communal experience. Being there, if anyone could ever get out to a LAN, like truthfully, is like the best experience for watching Apex. It's so fun. And I kind of wanted to like continue maybe to build up some hype for Japan. Like I know that you mentioned that you did the site visit, so you're the one who's seen the arena. You know what's coming up.
First of all, I can straight up say it's going to be the biggest in terms of audience already. It already is, which is insane because the tickets have been on sale for like a few hours. So it already has sold more tickets than any of our previous events, which is unbelievable in just a few hours. I've never been so excited for an Apex event, apart from maybe like Stockholm, because that was the first one after like 2 years of like not having an event. But I've been such a core part of this Japan thing for a long time, partially because of my role in managing the relationship with Rage. And so, I've been going out to Japan a bunch over the last few years. I've been there for the Asia Festival that happened this year. Prior to that, I'd been there for the Rage, like I think it was called the Apex Rage Festival. That was like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I've been out there on the site visits for various locations in Japan a couple times. And I'll tell you, man, like the moment I stepped into this, I mean, I've seen a bunch of different venues around Japan, all over. And the moment I stepped into this one, I was like, I could just feel it, like I stepped inside and again, I got goosebumps. I was like, I could see it. I was like, this is where our championship has to be, man. Like it was such a awesome experience from the moment we landed. The city of Sapporo has been a massive partner of ours in this. So a huge shout out to them. Like when I showed up, they had an entourage, like a team of people who picked us up, took us to all the various venues around the city. And when we got to the Sapporo Dome, I shit you not, they sat us down. I don't know. I think I posted this photo on Twitter. I sat down and the mayor of the city, they played a message from the mayor of the city. And it was a message from him, like welcoming the ALGS to Japan and to Sapporo. And he was saying like, we want this to be the destination. Like we want you to bring the ALGS to Japan and to Sapporo. And man, I was sitting there like imagine this massive 42,000 person seater stadium, pretty empty, like 20 of us are there. And they're playing this message on like the big screens, from the mayor. And I'm just sitting there like in my head visualizing this event. And I had goosebumps, man. I was like, this is it. If we're going to go to Japan, this is going to be the spot that's going to like really leave a real impression on all the fans who've been waiting for this thing for so long. And then in addition to all of that, so the city's getting behind us in a major way. They're going to do a lot to help support the event. They're helping promote the event. They had like our trailer on a bunch of like screens all over the city already, which is awesome. There's a lot of really cool things that we're working on with the city, stuff that I can't share yet, but you'll see if you go to Japan, and you'll probably see afterwards. And they've just been so supportive that I was like, how cool is it to partner directly with a city to try and pull off an event? Like it makes it bigger than just the event, And so, yeah, it's going to be in the middle of winter. It's going to be cold. It's going to be a week before or the day before their snow festival, which if you guys have read up on that, the Sapporo Snow Festival is like the biggest tourist attraction that they have in the city every year. It draws like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people to the city, maybe millions, honestly, maybe millions of people to the city every year. And like the city gets taken over by like ice sculptures and like lots of cool like cultural activities. So that being like a part of it, like this the day after, so people can kind of go and see that also just was like such a cool thing for us to kind of conceptualize well, what can we do to partner with the city on some of this stuff? And you'll see more of that to come. But like it's when I went there and like I said, I immediately, I don't know what time in the day it was on the West Coast, which is where John is, but I texted him. I was like, John, we have to go here. I was like, this has to be the spot, man. I was like, this is the championship venue. Like I've seen a lot of venues, some of which are great, some of which were like unavailable, dates aren't available. And by the way, venues in Japan are notoriously difficult. You've probably seen this on Reddit, but it's true. They get booked up years in advance, like literally years. And so when this was available, the dates that we wanted, and with all the other stuff around it, I was just like, this is how we bring the ALGS to Japan finally, you know? And so, yeah, man, I just can't wait. I can't wait for this event. It's going to be freaking awesome. I hope you guys come out there. Hopefully I'll see you guys there.
I mean, it's crazy to think about. We started this interview asking about when you first heard about Apex, and your friend said, and I quote, because I wrote it down, this game has the sauce.
Yeah,
to all of a sudden,
those are the words.
Yeah. To all of a sudden you're getting shown by the mayor of Sapporo that we want the ALGS to be inside this 42,000 seat arena. I mean, it's just crazy how far
It's
we've
wild.
come.
I mean, he was in our announcement trailer. You probably saw that too, right?
Yeah.
He's
Crazy.
super down to do all sorts of stuff with us, which is awesome. I don't know if he's going to come to the event yet. I hope so. I really hope he will.
Picks up a controller, just starts balling out. Who knows? Who knows?
He's an MK. He's an MK.
Oh, he's
Yeah,
MK. Okay,
they're
my bad.
APAC North, bro.
My
That's
bad, my
APAC
bad.
North for you. Come on, why you
My
gotta know
bad,
those
my
are the
bad.
M and K goats over there. I mean,
No,
you know,
it's crazy,
even previous lands though, you always see like they put up on the broadcast, or you'll see it on Twitter that in Japan they're like at bars packed with like TV screens around the bar, and they're playing Apex. Whereas like here in North America, you see that for sporting events, like they're doing it for Apex Legends. And I always knew, I'm like, if there's a LAN that's gonna happen in Japan, I'm like, I better be there right away to buy tickets, because those shits are gonna sell out immediately. And like they did, like it did, because like those fans are just so hardcore for it, and it's pretty cool to see that you know, that we're going there and giving them what they've been desiring for so long now. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I mean, I will say, like I said, I was cautiously optimistic, but a little nervous. I'm like, it's not in Tokyo. Obviously, that's where such a big part of the population lives. But I still felt really good about the city and the venue, and it's just, yeah, it's going to be a special one. We have a lot of really cool surprises that we're working on, and you know, not to kind of build it up too much, but like there's a lot of really cool stuff that's in the works. Like, I mean, the additional time has been nice also to help us build some of that stuff. But you're going to see some things that have not happened at previous ALGS events, which is just going to be really, really awesome. And again, just the level, I think, like the size of this event, it's going to feel so special, man. I mean, Japan has been, arguably one of the biggest markets for Apex since day one, right? And it's just been a long time coming. Like every time I go out there to the Asia Festival or whatever, you know, people are like, when is ALGS coming here? When is ALGS coming to Japan? So we're so excited. Like we're finally doing it, you know? It's been a long time coming, man. And even like, you know, merch, you guys have seen some of the merch. We tweeted
Saw
that.
Nessie hat.
I've got the one Nessie hat. It's
You've
right
got
Oh,
there it is. There it is.
There it is.
Yeah,
Let's
there
go.
it is.
Let's
Look
go. For
at
the
that.
I
podcast
don't want my headphones to work
exclusive,
with this.
dude.
No, I don't think maybe
Let's
like
go.
this.
Oh.
Yeah, this is the one and only Nessie hat as it is right now. This
Hell
is the
yeah.
only one.
One of one.
There you go.
There we
This
go.
is
That
one of
works.
one.
That works.
There you go.
This will be the thumbnail.
Yeah. This is the one of one. This was the limited. This was like our sample. We brought it out to Germany, and I think Greek was wearing it in the BLGS video, and
Yeah.
we had some Easter eggs. I think Tiff was wearing it for a little bit. But we're gonna have this bad boy, which will be nice because it's gonna be nice and balmy out there. It's gonna be pretty cold. And we have some, you know, finally, I was intentionally holding off on the black Nessie hoodie for Japan. That's another thing, by the way, that I've been heavily involved in over the last few years has been the merch. And we have some folks on our merch team now who are really helping out a lot. But in the early days, it was just me and Joseph mostly doing the merch. And then Jazz started helping, and now we have some more folks, Christy and Yura, who I don't know if you know them. But anyway, they've been helping with merch. And I think our merch has gotten better and better. But the Nessie hoodie has been a cool thing that like we started last year. Or the yellow one, I guess, started it, the OG Nessie hoodie, and then the location specific one. And the whole time I'm like, dude, I've got like a freaking rainbow of Nessie hoodies in my closet. Like I love them, but it's like I don't wear like bright fluorescent colors all the time. So I'm like, I'm just waiting for like the time for the black Nessie hoodie. And this felt like the time, you know? So in Japan, you're gonna have the black, white, and red.
There we
Nessie.
go.
It looks
I'm
dope.
building up my wardrobe. I saw
got
you
to.
tweet out, like I was doing live stream. I saw your tweet about the cream one, and I had a cream hoodie that like, got ruined. I was like, I need another one. Then you said you guys posted the cream hoodie. I was like, I know what hoodie I'm getting, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
I bought the blue one immediately in LA. And so when I saw the black one, I was like, well, I've bought 2 this year. I gotta get the third no
Gotta
matter
add
what.
the
So
other.
I will find a way to get my hands on that hoodie to make sure I got that. Because I figured those are gonna sell out really fast too.
Well, we tried to buy more than we had at the previous events. Now, given the demand, I have no idea. What we've done the last couple of events, I think, is if I remember, we put them for sale also online. So people who are either at home can't make it, or if we sell it on site, they can still try and get their hands on it. That has been a really cool thing too. LA, I think, really blew our socks off with the merch sales. LA, it almost sold out on day one, if I remember. I
Yeah.
think like almost all the stuff sold out on day one, and we were like, holy shit, like it has never sold like that before. I don't know, it's just like, Angelinos, people who live in LA. I used to live in LA, so maybe people just like love rocking merch down there, but it sold so well that kind of made us like rethink how much merch we order now. Because we just sold out so quick. But I hope that does really well in Japan. I think it will. I think the audience there also is going to love it.
And Shahin could confirm, I'm not paid to say this. Those hoodies are some of the most comfortable hoodies
Dude,
ever.
they are.
I
They
love
are.
them. They're so good.
Yeah.
I actually would probably get criticized by my friends for wearing the blue one too often. The only recommendation I'll give to people is buy one size bigger than you think. I don't know. I find they fit a little bit smaller, at least for me, I found. But like,
Yeah,
so
the sizing's been funny. I actually had that issue starting with this last event in Germany. The sizing felt different than it was previously. I don't know why. Maybe like slightly different, like blank or something that they used. But definitely agree with what you said. They are some of the softest hoodies I own. It's
I love
crazy.
them. I love them.
They're so comfy.
I
Great
actually
comfy weather.
I actually usually wear it, and then like this podcast starts, and I have to take one of them off and put on another sweater. I was literally talking about this with the boys before the call because I'm like, people are gonna be like, "Man, this guy wears the same 2 hoodies every pod." I'm like, they're that comfortable. I'm always
They are insanely comfortable. Yeah. And the black one is like, that's the color that I feel like most people rock. So hopefully this will do really well. And I think it's a really cute design. Nessie's like skiing and
skiing. Yeah. I like the Lederhosen one from Germany though too. I
later.
really like that.
That's funny too.
At what point did you guys realize that like the Nessie was gonna play as big of a role as it has with all the different merch-wise things that have released?
It's a good question. If I remember correctly, Split won playoffs last year. This is London. We were looking at what merch we should sell at the event, and at the time we didn't have any ALGS specific merch. I don't think for that event. And I think I remember looking at like all the merch that we have. I was like, what should we bring on site and sell? And the yellow Nessie stood out. I was like, this is really dope. Like it's something kind of totally different than all the other Apex merch. Like it feels a little more playful and it's bright. It's super bright. If I remember correctly, we ordered that for Split 1 playoffs, and then I think we sold out. And I remember seeing these photos of the crowd, and like I swear, like a third of the crowd is like yellow, And I was just like, holy shit, this is like, people really love this thing. This is awesome. And you just see people walking around with it everywhere. It was just so cool. And then I think, we brought that back to our teams internally, and we're like, hey, these are super popular. What if we start like marking the occasion of an ALGS event and like kind of theme them around certain events? So like it's a collectible item. You go to the UK, you get one that has like and at that time we were like, let's play it safe. Let's just start with like, it just has like a flag in its mouth. So we started it really like pretty simple. And that's kind of changed a little bit. It's still like not crazy. I mean, Lederhosen, I guess, is maybe the most crazy we've gone. But like the LA one was like, just like wearing shades and like has like the California has like palm trees and stuff. It's just like, how do we lean into every location and make it kind of feel themed, but still keep the same general vibe? Truthfully, I don't know if we'll keep doing them forever. It just feels like I don't want to like overplay it either. I feel like there's a lot of other cool merch that we've started doing in the last few events. The t-shirts have been really sick, honestly. The last few events, I feel like our ALGS t-shirts have come a long way. They look really dope. The Japan one that we shared on socials, you guys have already seen it. It has like really cool. It kind of looks like manga on, it's like a manga thing on the back, and um, they've just come a long way. So I don't want to like overdo it with the Nessie hoodies. I don't know if you can overdo it with an Nessie hoodie, maybe, but um, yeah. Obviously, like Nessie, we all freaking love Nessie, and there's other ways of doing cool stuff with Nessie like this, right? Like this thing is
There's
this
so
thing is
many
gonna
options.
fly, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I bought two of in LA. They just had the straight up just plush, and I
Mhm.
had a newborn at the time, and I didn't think I with kids you never really know like what they're gonna like or not like, and she destroys that thing every time she sees it. She's just like messing with it the whole time. I thought she was gonna eat one of the eyes out. I had to like take it away from her for a little
Oh
bit.
no.
So yeah,
Well,
so
Nessie's so freaking cute. That's the other
yeah,
thing is I
just
feel like it
she
appeals to
just
a
loves
different
it.
demographic, of folks. Like my girlfriend freaking loves Nessie too, and it's this is the thing that I also love about our events is that they feel like, of course, the competition is so like it's the central thing, but they're like a celebration of the game and the people who love the game for any number of reasons. I mean, you guys remember in Birmingham last year, like a couple got married or
Yeah.
not married. Sorry, they proposed on stage, but
Dressed
like
up as
they met
Mirage and
through the game.
Watson.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just like how cool, like it brings people together for a variety of different reasons, and so it's like a celebration and a love for the game, above all else. And so I feel like Nessie kind of leans into that rather than just being like a true esports thing. And at our events we have esports teams, they're selling like jerseys and like their own team merch and stuff. So if you want to rock that, there's that option for you too.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean it's great, and this show is a culmination of what you were just talking about. Like I didn't know these guys before the show, and even when we went to the LAN, we had spoken over Discord or whatever it was, but getting to meet everybody in LAN, like there's a picture that we all took together like while we were there, and it's like one of my favorite pictures because it's just all of us in our random jerseys. Like I said, the friends who didn't even care, they have their jerseys, they have their teams now. They're like watching, they're paying attention, and it's just so cool what has come from this. Shahin, you have broken a record today.
Shattered it, in fact.
You've shattered it. You are now the longest interview we've ever had on the show. So congratulations. You
hell
can put
yeah.
that trophy on the mantle. You
I
can
mean,
put that
I
trophy
could
on
talk
there.
about Apex and the LGS forever, so I'm more than happy to be on here. Like it's been a pleasure, honestly.
I
No,
think it's a thing
it's great.
because of the fact like these are a lot of questions that like we talk about repeatedly, even with pros, and we ask pros and they'll be like, I don't know, like I've never heard of it, like because we know they're behind the scenes, but we don't know how deep they are, and so this is like our first opportunity to just dig in and get all this stuff. I was even gonna say after, but I could say now. I think I had so many other questions here, which I know we're not gonna be able to ask. That we might after Japan, we'll have to get Shahin on again, hopefully, to dive into some stuff. Even I had some more specific questions about you specifically, even outside the game. So we'll have to do that again.
Yeah,
We'll have
absolutely,
to bring
man.
you
I
back
mean,
on.
dude, I would love to. Like I said, I love this game and I love this scene. Like I said, I get goosebumps at our events, and I'm not the only one. There's a team, behind the scenes, mostly, not fully. Some of them are kind of in front of the scenes a little bit, but that really genuinely care about this. I think it's helpful to put a face to the name also, so people aren't just like, oh, it's just EA doing their thing. It's like, no, there's a lot of people here who really care and really do want to make this thing like as great as it can be. I'm super passionate about it. It's like it is my life day in and day out. I used to watch scrims and all that stuff. In addition, I still have them on like the side screen sometimes now. I can't do like the 18-hour days that I used to do, but like I think about the ALGS and Apex like 12 hours a day. Like it's a lot, and it's been a joy to do that over the last 6 years. So I don't know, man. I hope that people see that like there are people who care here and that we've got something really special with this game and this community, and like I hope that we can continue having more amazing moments, and for those who are going to come to Japan, like I hope you come out and enjoy it because we're working our asses off for that one. So
yeah.
I think it'll be good.
Well, before E's question, did you have anything last to say, Wyatt? Or
No.
I just wanted to quickly throw out there, like this past year, I've had the amazing opportunity to like get to meet a lot of people behind the scenes with EA a lot more. And what I wanted to just quickly say is like, you know, you hear sometimes like some of the just negative feedback online, and I can wholeheartedly say that the people behind EA that I've met have been some of the most, and even Respawn, I should say, have been some of the most amazing and passionate and driven people for this game, and like to produce like the best product on both like the entertainment value side, but then also to like the community side. Like Shahin, like it's been like a blast having you on this call. The fact that you came here to like to do something like this again for the community, to teach and learn, help people learn about what's going on in the back of the scenes. But a lot of those people that you named, like Lene, Jasmine, Marlena, Ben, Joseph, and so much more, I don't think people realize over this last year how much they've done, not just for me, but many other creators in the scene. Like I know Jayhawk has like benefited a lot because of them. Maybe I shouldn't list a ton of people because like I don't want to like just put them. JN will be okay with, but like they have done so much for the community. And every single time I talk to someone from EA, all they're trying to do is make this like a community centric game. Like we got Wig with the B stream. We the people as the host. You have all the other language creators who are creators first, and then we're brought out to do this stuff. It is just so freaking cool what EA has done for the community and getting them involved directly with core parts of the game. Like, you know, you got even some character creators with like skins of the game now and everything like that too. So yeah, so I just wanted to like shout out, give a huge thank you, and say that I know a lot of the people of at EA and Respawn I think are underappreciated, but it doesn't go completely unnoticed. And I hope that maybe even with me saying this, and it's the first time I'm saying it publicly, but maybe we could shine a light on that, because like it is really freaking cool and awesome to see what you guys have provided here. So thank you so much, and thank you for coming on the show.
No, dude, thank you. That means a lot to hear. I'm sure all that crew. I'll send them this clip once it's out later. I'm sure they're gonna really appreciate that too. You know, and like I said, it all comes from a place of like just wanting to do what we feel is gonna make this the best sport, but also like what makes this the most compelling thing for the community and the fans. Like we really just like we all care. So I hope that comes through. And like I said, we're not going to be perfect ever. There's so many moving parts to these events and to these broadcasts that I hope we can show some of that in some of the future content that we have. But there's just a lot to manage. But we do our best, and I do think that like we've got something really special, and you can just see it in the passion of the fans, the players, and the community we have. And so thank you guys for this podcast too. I mean, you know, it's these sorts of things that keep this community going. You know, it's people being passionate about this. I mean, you can just tell pros are on here, content creators are on this thing. I mean, you guys doing this is not an insignificant amount of work either. So thank you guys for putting this podcast on. And like I said, I'm more than happy to come back. Yeah, maybe we'll do it after Japan. We'll have a lot to talk
I'm
about.
down for it.
Love to see it.
I'm down for it. E, you ready for it?
Yes, sir. All right, Shahin. So the question that I ask everybody who comes on the pod,
Okay.
because everybody who comes on the pod is performing in the top 1% of their field that they're in. You definitely fit the bill for that with everything you've done over the last 7 years. You've been moving different. And so with that being said, what is one thing that you've learned on the journey to get to this point that somebody, regardless of the field that they're pursuing, could apply and help them get to where they want to be?
I think the thing that always sticks out to me is to not be afraid to make like the leap, to do something that's scary. I'll give the example I'll give is, so I've been working in gaming now for, I don't know, over 10 years. I mean, I've been at EA for, it's kind of crazy, but almost 7 years, which is wild to say. And my very first job in games was actually a company called CCP Games. They're well known for EVE Online. If you guys have ever heard of EVE, big MMO, super rich history, super insanely rich and detailed game, most hardcore game ever. It's like the loving nickname for it is spreadsheets in space, because that's kind of what it is. It's like it's insane. And I remember at the time I had a different office job, and I remember having this one dinner. It was me and my dad, and we're having this conversation. I had this, and I was applying everywhere at the time. I really wanted to just work in the games industry. And at the time, I wanted to be a community manager. That's kind of where my background is before I got into esports and the partnerships and business development side is community, which is why I'm probably on this podcast and why I, you know, tweet shit about our events and stuff, because I'm still a very community minded person. But I I was throwing applications everywhere, and I wasn't even getting like responses from like small studios near my house. Like they were just like they had other better applicants, better qualified applicants who had worked in gaming before. Somehow I got an interview, and then somehow I got a job offer at CCP Games out of the blue. And CCP was like a AAA publisher who were going to give someone who had never worked in the games industry a job. And at that time I was working in the music industry, and I was working for Amazon actually doing like online content stuff for them. This is like, God, 11, 12 years ago. I'm old. And I remember the catch for this job was, so I lived in England at the time. I grew up in England actually. And CCP are from Iceland. The company is based in Iceland, but this job was based in Shanghai, China. And I remember getting this job offer, and I was just like, dude, I've never even been to China. Like, like, am I gonna like move to China? And I had no idea what life in China would be like. I had no idea. And moving, not just like country, but it was like, quitting my job, everything. And I remember having this conversation with my dad one day over dinner, and I was like, I don't know if I should take this job. I was like, this is like a really kind of scary thing to do. And he said something to me that has kind of stuck with me forever. He's like, if this is really what you want to do, he's like, you can be on the next flight out back to London tomorrow. Like, he's like, you could just come back, you'll get another job, you'll figure it out. But if this is really what you want to do, he's like, just see where it goes, And because of that job over the years, that opened so many doors to me. I always think that like every little thing that you do opens doors for you somewhere, somehow, even if you don't like see it immediately. Like that job opened a ton of doors for me. I suddenly worked at a AAA publisher, and when I worked where I applied for my next jobs afterwards, it was like I had a lot more credibility in that field, and both in community and in gaming. So I look back at that as like one of the best decisions I ever made for my career, And at the time I was like so scared, man. Like I was just like, it was a lot of uncertainty. I had no idea what it was going to be like. And so anyway, long-winded answer of saying this, which is like, don't be afraid of taking the risks. Obviously try and be smart about it. But like, if something you truly care about, something you truly want something, like make sure you have your contingency or whatever it is, but don't be afraid of taking risks. Because for me, like every time I've kind of gambled, maybe it didn't immediately pay off. I've had some stinkers over the years. Like I've taken some jobs, haven't been great. I've had, stuff like that happen. But the overall trajectory where I think about like, if I didn't take that job, I wouldn't be here with you guys today. Like I wouldn't have worked on Apex. I wouldn't have worked on the ALGS. And all of that is because I took a random job for me at the time to move to China. And so I don't know. I always look back at that decision as like a big, if you're like building like a tree, like in an RPG, like that was like one of the big moments for me that put me on this path over here. And so I'm super grateful. And actually just last month after Germany, my girlfriend and I traveled around Europe, and we went to Iceland. And in Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland, they have an EVE Online monument. And I went back there, and they have all the people who had like a registered account at that time when it was built have their name on there. And so I was working there when they built that monument. So my name is still on the EVE Online monument, and I went and took a photo with it. I was like, remember,
That's sick.
this is where it all started for me, man.
That's so cool.
So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, Shahin, I feel like we barely scratched the surface on what we could talk about. Like we didn't even get it, like Jumpa said, we didn't even get into your life. Like hearing that, I wanted to go deeper in on that, but I mean, we're already almost at 2 hours.
We'll do it next time, man.
We'll have to do it next time. But once
go.
again, man, thank you so much for hopping on. We can't wait for Japan. Get your tickets. Japan's going to be great. Shahin, thanks so much for your time, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.